Hello, 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 welcome back to the Saba Show, and today we've got the round 9 predictions. I don't waste any time, so let's dive right in. First fixture coming up is the Bulldogs taking on the Pies at Marvel Stadium. Both sides have been absolutely hit with inconsistency all year round, also injuries and whatnot. And the same goes pretty much for this week. The Pies are obviously missing Grundy and have been for a couple of weeks. And then you've got the Bulldogs who picked up 3 injuries previously last week against the Power. Vandermeer went off. O'Brien went off. Cody Waitman tried to bump Sam Hayes and busted his shoulder, so he's out for a while. This is a really tough game. I would have backed the the Bulldogs to win, if Tim English came back, but he has been ruled out with illness this week, and it is not the hamstring that has been troubling him. Bontempelli does return, though. He has not had the influence that I think a lot of Bulldogs fans would have liked to see from him this season. And the Pies, well, last week they decided to give Tom Lynch a midfielder-worthy performance, and then some in the first half last week. He kicked 5 goals and had 18 touches, and that was ultimately the difference maker. That really put the Pies out of reach for the majority of the game. So look, I'm going to back the Pies to win. I keep giving these sides more belief than they deserve because they've both been inconsistent as hell. But look, I think the Pies will win. Although I would have backed the Dogs in if they had Tim English, because I think he would have destroyed Darcy Cameron. Another brilliant game to kick us off on Saturday. It is Hawthorn taking on the Tigers. And well, we just said with the Tigers, they were challenged by the Pies. I mean, they obviously got off to an early break. Tommy Lynch was the guy that was holding up the fort. It was very nice to see Dustin Martin back in Tigers colours on the field. And for the Hawks, well, they absolutely choked, and it was a catastrophe, I think, to be brutally honest. And what was a really good start to the year for the Hawks has now resulted in them losing 5 of their last 6. And mind you, they haven't really been that shit in any of the fixtures that they've lost. Mind you, there's been a couple of really close ones. They've lost to Carlton and Melbourne by a combined 2 goals. So that's not awful, but this is a game that they should have won last week, and they threw it, basically. Look, I think the Tigers, well, they're coming off some very good form. Obviously, the Eagles game gave them that self-esteem that they desperately needed. And then following it up against a Pies outfit who are dangerous on their good day is a very good sign. So look, I'm going to back the Tigers in to win this one, given recent form. But the Hawks, I think they're just going to keep up that consistent run of being competitive. It's just a matter of whether they get the result or not, and I don't think they will. We're going to keep this one short and sharp. This game looks pretty close on paper if you look at both records, but it is not even close to that story, that narrative. North have been hideous. They lost by 78 last week to Fremantle. Possibly could have been more. Had Fremantle been better and had their best 22. If they had their best 22, North, I mean, they might as well have not rocked up. They're 1-7, won the first game of the year, but since then have lost 7 in a row. The Power, on the flip side, have won their last 3, and mind you, their opponents have been all teams out of form, excluding St Kilda, but I think the weather really did them a few favours there. But they picked up the win against the Bulldogs. They needed to win that game. Adelaide Oval, in the past few seasons, they have been, they've made that place a fortress. And they struggled at, the start of the year. So they picked it up recently, and all of a sudden they're like in 11th position. So it's almost like they never left, really. But as I said, Port are going to win this one. Blunston Arena should play into North's advantage. They know the ground better, but I think the Power, too much class. They were underperforming at the start of the year, and I think they will pick up where they left off and pick up their 4th on the trot. We advance to another brilliant game. This one is at Marvel on Saturday afternoon, twilight, whatever. St Kilda are taking on the Cats. The Saints are sliding just a little bit. They have lost their last 2 games. Mind you, they actually, they fixed up the scoreline a little bit against the Ds, considering they were getting absolutely flogged in that first half. The Cats picked up a very nice 53-point win, looked in control at all times, played a few of the kids, Cooper Stevens and Mitch Nevitt, and I think they fit in pretty seamlessly, or, they look pretty comfortable at AFL level. So, that's a really good sign for them because, Geelong, they need to transition into the next phase beyond all these superstars playing, obviously, at the back end of their careers. So that's really good to see. Saints, as I said, shouldn't have lost to the Port Adelaide Power the other week. And the Ds, I think that one was expected given the Ds are on a tear. So it's a bit of a tough one to pick. I look at matchups. I always talk about Max King in these predictions, and I always say he's going to tear it up. There have been numerous occasions where he's gone on an absolute tear. He's had a bit of a goal explosion in the last quarter. I'm actually going to call it and say it's going to happen here. They do not have someone that can match King in the height department. Mark Blitzovs has been covering in ruck, and he's probably the best replacement. Sam De Koning is probably their tallest defender by a country mile, but he is lanky as shit, and he has played a dozen games or less. So he is not the go-to, even though he's probably your best matchup in terms of stature. So look, I'm going to say the Saints win on the back of Max King kicking about 5 goals. I think it's going to be a well-rounded performance. The Saints are overdue. They had a very good start to the year, and I don't think that's really dissipated. I just think that they've come across some good opposition and some equally shit weather. So look, the Cats looked really good last week, and I would not be surprised if they win this, but I'm going to go against the norm, against the grain, and say the Saints win. We've got the Swans and the Bombers on Saturday night at the SCG. The Swans lost to Gold Coast surprisingly. That is their bogey opponent. They cannot buy a win against the Suns. I think it's 3 of the last 4 that they have lost. The Bombers were absolutely injury depleted last week. A list of laid outs, and somehow managed to pull a gutsy win against Hawthorn despite being down by about 15 at three-quarter time. They went on an absolute last quarter blitz. Peter Wright was the spearhead of all that. He kicked 6 goals. That was a really mature performance by the Bombers and something that was really overdue. They would have been in extreme trouble if they were 1-7. They aren't even remotely close in terms of being as shit as North Melbourne and West Coast, but I think it would have been a little bit harsh on them if they ended 1-7 at the end of that Saturday night fixtures last week. Swans, as I said, they have dropped off a little bit. Gold Coast, they needed to win. Brisbane, good opponent, so I would let them off for that one, but that Gold Coast loss was a bit unforgivable. Look, I think they'll bounce back this week. They are a very good side at the SCG. They know how to play that ground. Essendon have not ventured outside Victoria this year. And obviously they still have, quite a few, gaps in their best 22 that cannot be filled given their personnel and who's available and whatnot. So Swans to win. Bombers, I don't think they'll put up a fight. Actually, I think they will, given the Swans have shown a bit of vulnerability, but I think they'll get up anyway. Other Saturday night fixture, and it is the Crows taking on the Lions at the Adelaide Oval. The Crows got absolutely killed by Carlton. The scoreboard does them a little bit of justice. It was not that close. And the Lions probably should have destroyed West Coast by even more, but they got saved by the weather and still only won by 75 points. 75 points though. That is what I'm saying. That was where the dominance was at. They allowed 10 shots on goal to the Eagles. Mind you, I don't know if that's saying more about West Coast than it is about Brisbane's backline, but they have been rock solid back there. 7-1, looking in a very healthy position. Lachie Neale's playing the best football of his career. Only injury cloud for the Lions is that Daniel McStay is out injured. That is obviously a bit of a blow. However, Eric Hipwood is on the verge of returning, so it's almost a like-for-like replacement. It's just a matter of whether he comes back in the AFL or the VFL. Look, you could probably afford to rest him. I think the Crows, while they were vulnerable last week, they could not stop Charlie Curnow or Harry Mackay. So I would back the Lions small forwards to just show off against the Crows, because the Crows have, as I said, shown a lot of flaws in recent weeks. I think Brisbane are going to win this one. I don't think the Adelaide Oval factor really comes into play. Mind you, the Crows did pick up some very good wins last season at the Adelaide Oval. Against top 4 opponents, the D's and the Cats. So you never know. You never know. Football is a very strange thing, but I'm going to back Brisbane in here. We've got the Suns and the Dockers to kick things off on Sunday afternoon. And while the Suns, despite missing Noah Anderson right before the bounce, managed to pick up the 4 points against the Swans against all odds. I mean, who really expected the Suns to go in there and teach the Swans a lesson? you know, they didn't even snatch it at the end. They held that lead the whole way through, pretty much. And it was a really, really good performance by them. I mean, Marby Chola and Casbolt have actually combined for 30 goals this year. I cannot recall the last time a duo for the Suns combined for that many after 8 rounds. I mean, it's really baffling to say that, but in saying that, it's something that they've been crying out for. The Dockers, on the other hand, I mean, that was a win they needed to get, and they did it, and then some. You know, they needed to get that percentage, capitalize on the weaker opponent, and they did that. It was really good to see some younger players get a bit of exposure. Jai Amos, or Amiss, I don't know how to pronounce it. He got some exposure and he kicked a couple goals, which is really nice to see. The family got down to that game. Obviously, a lot of WA recruits around the Dockers organization, but they are absolutely flying. They missed 6 players last week because they had COVID protocols, and now they're back. And I do think, well, obviously, you know that there is a little bit of a COVID outbreak happening in terms of the AFL over in WA, so they've got to be really careful and really conscious of that. But regardless, full strength, missing 10 players, it really hasn't phased the Dockers this year. They've missed 5 all year round. They haven't had a lot of continuity with a fair few portion of the players. That is not even English, but it doesn't matter. The Suns are going to lose this one. I think, you know, they showed that they can go with competition and really capable football sides when they play their best footy, but it just doesn't happen consistently enough. And against a Fremantle side who have been very formidable this year, I think Freo will get the points easily. We've got the Giants and the Blues taking on one another at 3:20 at Giants Stadium on Sunday. The Giants are 2-6, and just when you thought they had found a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, then they go out and lose by 53 at home to Geelong. Bit of a reality check, to be honest. They thought they were going to get it easy. Well, they did against the Crows, and then they came up against a pretty good opponent, to say the least, and the Cats taught them a lesson. Blues, 48-point winners over the Crows, 6-2 now. Obviously, I've talked about this team numerous times on the channel, but they have been very, very good. Mind you, they did take the foot off the gas in the last quarter, and that is really frustrating as a Carlton supporter. Could have gained a little bit of percentage. Georgie Hewitt, I don't know if he's back this week. I don't know if he's back next week. I really don't know the scale of his injury. The Giants don't really have any absences. They have just been garbage or inconsistent as hell once again. But look, the Blues, I reckon, will win this. On paper, it looks very lopsided. But mind you, I don't think Carlton have ever won in Sydney against GWS. So if history would say anything, it's that the Giants are going into this game favourites and they are going to win this game. But look, the Blues, it's got to happen at some point, and I think they will get their first win in Sydney against the Giants in this match. Final fixture, and do I need to say anything about this game? Melbourne are 8-0. The Eagles are 1-7. The Eagles could have lost by about 130 last week. Saved by the weather. Hit by COVID. Players going out clubbing when they've already had a COVID outbreak. I mean, where is the thinking? I've just hit my mic, but I'm basically displaying the exact same thinking that the Eagles players have portrayed, especially in this last week. And Adam Simpson is fully within his right to be frustrated. The D's are absolutely flying. Maxi Gawn has been under a little bit of an injury cloud, but honestly, it does not matter. This Melbourne team is flying. They've got their... Well, they don't even need their best team in. They could play their seconds and beat this West Coast team. That's how confident I am, and that's how lopsided this matchup really is. The D's are going to win this. It's going to be an absolute landslide. West Coast fans, I wouldn't even rock up to the game, because quite honestly, this could get really ugly. And that's going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the show. It's a weekly thing. You know the deal. And I will see you in the next one. Peace out.